Hello, welcome. This is Saturday News at Noon. I'm your host, Keith Lander, coming to you from Dayton, Ohio. Welcome all. Welcome all your comments from the last show. I appreciate it. I greatly appreciate it. And I'll take note that you watch the show, share the show out, and subscribe. I think there's a subscribe button down there. You hit that button, you can see it on a monthly basis. That's what we do the show on. We may pick up the pace here a little bit and do it twice a month, but that remains to be seen. So appreciate you watching. This show focuses in on local news and national news, and also I give some commentary, on some of these stories that's in the news. So first, I'd like to start with some local news right here in the state of Ohio, right here in Montgomery County. It states that $1 million was a state grant to improve the Montgomery County Crime Lab. The local crime lab is dedicated to assist law enforcement in solving criminal cases in the region, and it received a $1 million grant to update the equipment. The money will be put to good use, Montgomery County Coroner Dr. Kent Herbert said. He said it will be used by the Miami Valley Crime Lab to update equipment, to buy rapid DNA identification technology, create a new technician position, and improve the hardware and software used in the lab, as well as adding a robotic system where there's possible. And that's a good thing. Now, check this out, folks. The money is part of a $10 million Ohio Crime Lab Efficiency Program, in which the state's 14 crime laboratories will get portions of the money to eliminate evidence processing backlog. The governor's office previously said that the money is part of DeWine's strategy to support state justice system and secure justice for victims. Now, in the article by the Dayton Daily News, the Ohio Democrats released a statement Monday morning saying that the money used to help crime labs come from the American Rescue Plan, and that DeWine said he would have voted against it. So, DeWine also said that his office has an obligation to take the money and spend it best ways it can to help the state. Now, I have some more on this in a minute, but I have another article also on this money with the American Reinvestment Act. Now, Dayton Children's Hospital unveils historic investment in behavior care. Now, responding to what its leaders sees increasingly as a national and local health crisis, Dayton Children's Hospital will be breaking ground this year on a $100 million building devoted to mental health and behavior health for children, doubling the number of beds the hospital has for those patients today. The state will put up $25 million into the site, which will be located on Valley Street between Children's Hospital main campus and Connor Child Health Pavilion. And also, the goal is to have the new building open by mid-2025, according to the hospital officials. Now, the state investment will come from the American Rescue Plan Act funds, which will be invested in children's hospitals across the state, according to DeWine's office. As part of the state's pediatric behavior health initiative, $84 million will go towards not just Children's Hospital, but also hospitals in Akron, Cincinnati, in Toledo. So that's a good thing, folks. Now, here it is. Now, remember I said that the money, where that money came from the American Rescue Plan. And when I said that Governor DeWine said that he wouldn't take the money if he would have voted against the American Rescue Plan Act, is what I'm saying. And the Cleveland Plain Dealer, Governor DeWine, said that he wouldn't have voted for the federal coronavirus stimulus package, and that's known as also the American Rescue Plan. Also, in the Cleveland.com page, which is a news site, Governor DeWine, Ohio Republicans tout spending from Democrats federal, it says, Mike DeWine, the Ohio Republican, touts spendings from Democrats' federal coronavirus aid, a law they opposed. So here we are, folks. When the American Rescue Plan was being talked about under President Biden and the votes took place, all the Republicans and some governors said they would have voted against this plan. Now the money is flowing, and they're standing grandstanding, taking pictures like the money, they had something to do with the money coming to the states. If it had not been for the vote from the Democrat and the control of the House by Democrats and the 50-50 vote in the Senate, and the deciding vote goes to the Vice President Kamala Harris, this money wouldn't be here. Plain and simple. Governor DeWine said he'd voted against it, but he's also taking pictures and happy the money's here, and some of these other governors too. As a matter of fact, Mike Turner, who represents the 10th district here in this area, he also voted against the American Rescue Plan. And so what I'm saying is a lot of hypocrisy going around is that these people who vote against a piece of legislation, and then when the money comes to their state, they're out there grandstanding and taking credit for something that never would have happened if they'd had the votes or the majority in Congress. So we had to get credit where credit is due, and people ought to thank those people who in Congress that had enough sense to vote on this piece of legislation, because at the time the coronavirus was shutting down everything. These municipalities in these states, they were hurting financially. President Biden and his administration had the foresight to come up with this plan to pump some money into this economy, to pump some money into these states and municipalities, so that these states wouldn't just roll up the sidewalk and say, hey, we ain't got no money to do nothing with. So now is the time that the money is coming, and there's going to be more money coming down the pike. So we got to look at this thing for what it is. We got to look at who's governing for the people, of the people, and by the people, and who's just standing in the way doing nothing. All right? So I want to make sure people understand where this money is coming from. It's not coming from the state. This money came from the federal government, and it came from the American Rescue Plan that every Republican in the representatives voted against, with the exception of maybe two. That's it. So I don't want these people taking credit for something that they shouldn't have. There was a shooting in Buffalo, New York. This white supremacist drove 200 miles, according to the reports, drove into Buffalo, New York, a predominantly black area of town, at the supermarket, and opened fire, killing, I forget the number of people, but he killed a lot of people. I'll get the report here in a minute. 10 people is what he killed. 18-year-old white supremacist. Now, this is not the first time we've had a shooting like this. Remember in Charleston, where the white supremacists went into the church and killed those people in that church down in South Carolina? There were some other shootings around where white supremacists thought it was a good idea to shoot people of color and kill them. These people are being motivated and being encouraged by some of these national media outlets to believe that some kind of way black folks and Jewish folks are trying to replace them some kind of way. Now, you remember in Charlottesville, where those white supremacists that walking and marching through Charlottesville had the tiki torches, they were hollering, the Jews will not replace us. The Jews will not replace us. That's what they were saying, folks. And in that protest, the counter-protest, a young lady named Heather Heyer, this white supremacist took his car and drove it into the crowd, killing Heather Heyer and injuring several other people. So we have to be very careful about what is being said over the airways on a national stage, because it appears that some of these people have the intent on to mainstreaming white supremacy. Mainstreaming white supremacy is not a good idea, and they are encouraging and motivating and radicalizing these individuals with that mindset that black folks, Jewish folks are out to take something from them. And these people are responding by going and killing black folk, Jewish folks. We've seen that at the Jewish synagogue where shooting has taken place. We've seen too many of these. And people say, well, what can we do? We cannot mainstream. We should not motivate. We should not encourage white supremacy to dominate the conversation because these people are acting now on it. And if it's irresponsible for a talk show host, news show, whatever you want to call yourself, media outlet, it's irresponsible for you to fan the flames, motivate these people, and then when these people go out and do what you motivated them to do, then you sit back and say, I didn't have nothing to do with it. Yes, you did. That's what's out there, folk. You get in this country, you get in, and you get in what you put in this country. And if you putting out that black folks are somehow out to get or out to take, and Jewish folks are out to take something from white folk, what is that? What we trying to take from white folk? And as a matter of fact, as far as I know, I've never seen, if anybody's supposed to be fearing, I've never seen a black person get in his car and drive 200 miles or get in his car and drive down the street to go try to kill white folk. White folks are attacking unarmed, black and brown citizens, killing them by the 10s, the 20s, killing them. And we got the nerve to sit here and say, well, it's not white supremacy. It is white supremacy. They used to hang black folks back in the day, the white supremacists did. Now they grab a gun and they go and shoot as many of them as they can. It has to stop. We have to stop this nonsense, folks. We done seen it too many times. And people want to always gravitate toward, well, it's mental illness. Well, when them black folks in Chicago, when they get to shooting each other and carrying on, y'all don't say them people got mental illness issues, do you? You say, lock them up and throw away the key. So if you're going to blame black folks for violence in Chicago and other cities, if you're going to blame that on crime and thugness, what about these white supremacists who go and kill unarmed citizens? And you're going to say, well, that should be mental illness problem. Not a mental illness problem. It's an American problem. And if every American is not going to work on this problem, we're going to continue to see shootings like this. Just a few days ago, this taping is going to be on Saturday. There was another shooting at a school. I think 19 little kids shot, gunned down. This is not the first time we've seen a shooting like this either. I think I believe the stat says since 1998 up until today, there's been over 288 school shootings like the one we just witnessed in Texas. And if you compare what's happening here in the United States as far as school shootings, if you look around the world to see if any shootings like this take place, you won't find mass number of shootings like this. And we got to ask ourselves, why? Why is this happening just here in the United States where this person gets a gun and go into a school and kill kids? Why is that? Is it the accessibility of guns? Is it the lack of safety with guns? Is it the motivation from the fact that if you disagree with somebody or you want to get back at somebody, you go and shoot them? We have to change the way we talk to people whom we disagree with, folks. We have to. I mean, those little kids did nothing. Not only those kids, but there was some other shooting. Columbine, Sandy Hook, on down the list. Innocent kids are being killed in this country, folk. And we got the nerve, some of these people got the nerve to get on TV, these lawmakers, and say, well, the automatic weapon he had, well, It wasn't about the weapon, it's mental illness. You ain't said that about them people in Chicago or other black areas where shooting go on. You ain't said that about them. But you want to blame this you want to blame this shooting on mental illness. Because in 100% of the time, the shooter is white. We got to talk about gun safety. We got to do something, folks. We got to do something. Innocent kids killed in the school. And we got people trying to justify this nonsense with some kind of mental illness. If this don't get you upset, folks, if you can't be numb to this, little kids, teenagers, gunned down in school where it's not safe. Not only that, members of church down in South Carolina having their services, this white supremacists walk in and shoot them all, kill them. And we got the nerve to sit back on these national news stations and make excuses. We got politicians, lawmakers making excuses instead of trying to find a way to prevent this thing. It's time out for that, folks. We need lawmakers that's going to do the job and keep people safe. And if you're not going to do that, you need to be voted out of office as quickly as we can get to the polls. Vote them out who are not going to try to keep people safe, and especially kids. Come on, y'all. We looking at folks who say, well, we got to protect the unborn. But when they're born and they're in school, where's that same protection? Where's the same outcry? You want to protect them in the womb, but when they get to the second, third grade, they on their own. They got to run for their life. They got to get in the closet. They got to get under a desk. Come on, lawmakers. Y'all can do a whole lot better than this. You should do a whole lot better than this. I just had to get that off my chest, folks. Didn't like what I see. And I don't like some of the responses from some of these lawmakers, these talking heads on TV. So let me move on. There was a baby formula shortage, and the Biden administration has taken action on this baby formula shortage. Now, I'll tell you what caused the shortage. The Abbott Laboratory, which makes baby food and formula, shut its manufacturing facility down in Sturgis, Michigan in February, following a federal investigation after it recalled 3 baby formula products amid reports of infant illness. The recall has caused a massive shortage in baby formula across the United States. And so what the Biden administration done, working with the Food and Drug Administration, they streamlined the process to bring in international baby formula brands. And as it stands today, there's been probably, I think, 2 or 3 plane loads, big military plane loads of baby formula coming into the United States to fill that gap. Now, people are looking to blame. Who do you want to blame? They want to blame Joe Biden. They want to blame all these other folks. Look, it was the Abbott Laboratory who called and had the recall. That's why it was shorted, because it was pulled off the shelves because of the illnesses from some infants. And the federal investigation took place in that laboratory, in that facility, to make sure that formula and the baby food was safe for these infants to receive. Now, since then, some baby formula have hit the shelves, and there's going to be more in the coming weeks. So if you are still having that shortage, there are some suggestions that I would give you. One is to you may want to look at the convenience store chains and local pharmacies and baby specialty stores, if you're still looking for formula. Manufacturers, by the way, of baby formula have some websites, and you can look into those websites and see if they can, get your baby formula to you quicker. Also, you can call your pediatrician for help. Many times pediatricians, they'll have knowledge where you can find the baby formula in your area. And what the articles do say about this formula is, do not substitute another milk for that formula. They said that's harmful to the baby's system. So as it stands right now, they are getting a handle on this baby formula shortage. And Abbott Labs, I think the president did issue out an apology to the mothers who were using this formula, who it was affected by, because he takes the blame. He says, hey, look, we screwed up, and we're going to make sure that this never happens again. And that's what we should be looking at, folks. And the Biden administration, President Biden administration, is basically making sure that happens. He's putting some guidelines up, some more guidelines up. And by the way, the President Biden administration is importing 1.5 million bottles of baby formula. Operation Fly Formula is what it's called, and it's in the process even as we speak right now. And so, like I said, in addition to importing that formula from overseas, the president has signed legislation to promote low-income families from the impact of future shortages. The Access Baby Formula Act of 2022. It allows families to use funds received from special supplemental nutrition program for women and infants and children. One of those is SNAP and one of those is WIC is happening, to buy formula products outside the designated list during a public health emergency or supply chain disruption. So that'll help in the future. President Biden's administration is trying to find solutions to these problems instead of pointing the finger without a solution. Because oftentimes when issues like this take place, people want to point the finger, and those pointing the finger has no solution to the problem. We need solutions to the problem, not finger pointing. That don't help anybody. Not name calling. That don't help anybody. So I just wanted to bring that up. Also in Florida, I mentioned this before about the governor, Ron DeSantis. Well, now he's signed a bill. He's banning picketing and protesting outside private homes. Now, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis signed a bill Monday that will make protesting outside of a person's home illegal. The law follows the rise in protests outside homes of the Supreme Court justices after a draft opinion was leaked indicating that the court was planning to overturn the landmark Roe v. Wade case. House Bill 1571 intends to prevent both picketing and protesting outside people's homes, according to the law. Protesters with the intent to harass or disturb a person in his or her dwelling are illegal. This Ron DeSantis, he's a real piece of work, folks. Now, law enforcement officers must warn protesters to leave before making the arrest. Look, folks, protesting is a constitutional right, peaceful protesting. And when you're seeing those protesters outside those justices' home, they were peacefully protesting. That street, that sidewalk, that's public property. You can protest all day long on those pieces of property. And as long as you're peaceful, the Constitution gives you the authority to do it. These governors like Ron DeSantis, who just because you don't like something doesn't mean you can enact legislation to stop it. Because you're trampling on the Constitution. You're walking all on the Constitution. And you act like you don't care, right? That's why we have this thing called the Constitution. Because it gives people the right to peacefully protest their government, peacefully protest elected officials, peacefully protest anything which they want to protest about, whether I agree with it or not. If you want to protest peacefully, have at it. Ron DeSantis has no right to sign a piece of legislation to try to stop people from peacefully protesting. They did this when the George Floyd killing was happening. People were protesting. These governors who didn't like it tried to prevent it from happening. Ron DeSantis is doing the same thing, and some other governors also. That tells you something, folks. That tells you that protesting is an effective way to get change. One of the effective ways to get change. Because if protesting didn't matter, these governors like Ron DeSantis out of Florida and these other governors, they wouldn't be putting pieces of legislation into place to try to stop you from doing it. So it's effective, folks. And they know it's effective. That's why they ain't doing anything. That's why they're trying to do this. Now here's some other GOP states. Also, 34 states proposed at least 81 anti-protest bills in 2021. So that shows your protest is effective. And keep doing what you're doing because they don't like it, because they know it's effective and they want you to go away. Don't go away. Never go away. Be that agent of change. Protest peacefully. And when you protest, make sure you have some strategies to change whatever you're protesting about. Just don't protest and go home. Protest with a strategy to make change. Got it? All right. Let me say this about this rapper and entertainer, a guy named Travis Scott. I didn't know who Travis Scott was until that incident that they had at a big concert where some people rushed the stage and some people died and got injured. And Travis Scott was on stage performing, and a lot of people tried to blame Travis Scott for the security failure in that whole thing. But Travis Scott was just the entertainer and a rapper doing his show. Well, Travis Scott has donated $1 million to 100 historically black colleges and universities. The rapper, Travis Scott's doing his philanthropy. He also said he has a Cactus Jack Foundation and has awarded $1 million to 100 HBCU students to ensure they graduate this year. The Wayman Webster Scholarship Fund, which is named after Scott's grandfather, a longtime HBCU educator. This marks the second year that Scott has assisted these students. The recipients that includes graduating seniors from 38 HBCUs, including Alabama A&M University, Central State University, Florida A&M University, Jackson State University, Morehouse College, Texas Southern University, Grambling State University, Xavier University of Louisiana, Prairie View A&M University, and a couple other schools. Now, Travis Scott made a statement. He said, "Excellence abounds every black household. Too often opportunities do not come. Black students are left behind or counted out," Scott said in a statement. So that's why my family and I set to change. We congratulate all 100 scholarship recipients this year. See, folks, these entertainers, these rappers, whether you like the music or not, that's beyond, you can turn it off. You don't have to listen. If you don't like the music, you can turn it off. But these rappers, they're doing some good, a lot of good for the community. It's just not made publicly. It's in little pockets, and you don't hear. Now, if Travis Scott would have been involved in like the concert where the people, rushed the stage and, got injured and this kind of thing, he would have been front page on the news. But when he's doing something to help his own folks, it's way back there on the back end. You don't even hear anything about it. And some of these other rappers, they do a lot of good. But you don't hear that. There's a reason for that, folks. Because they want you to think that these rappers are thugs, uneducated, don't care about the community. But they're wrong when you really look at it. These folks do some good. And if I hear about any rapper, Travis Scott, whoever it is, I'm going to bring it up on the show because they deserve some credit. They're doing more than these people sitting back talking about them, that's for sure. So, folks, I'm gonna close this show. If I went on a rant on the first end of the show, I needed to. And you should be upset too with these killing of these school shootings and these little kids. I love the little kids. I like seeing little kids playing out there. When I'm at the park and running by, they got a waterfall, they playing, hollering, screaming. That's what kids supposed to do, have some fun. They're not supposed to be running for their lives in a school building. The teachers are not supposed to be putting their lives on the line, try to protect these kids. That's not supposed to happen here in the United States, folks. This is the United States of America, one of the greatest countries in the world. And you're going to tell me that we cannot reduce the number of school shootings happening here in this country, and they don't happen nowhere else in the world to this magnitude or to this number. We need to look and see what other countries are doing, and we need to start duplicating it as quickly as we can to eliminate these school shootings. And if you're a politician, if you're a legislator, if you're in Congress, and you talking about something different than protecting these kids, you need to be voted out of office and run out of town. I'm gonna say this. We need to start a campaign that says, vote them out. Vote them out. The ones who are not protecting the public, the ones who don't have the public interest, the ones who don't have these kids' best interests at heart, we need to vote them out, folks. Vote them out. I'm gonna close with that. Now, I can't forget my closing. May God bless you and your family. Thank you.